The sun was barely rising, casting long shadows across the ruined city. The ground was cracked, and the air smelled of burnt wood and scorched earth. It was a place that had seen too many battles. The war between the humans and the alien invaders had been going on for years, and no one knew how much longer the humans could hold on. Adam, soldier in the human army, walked slowly through the streets of the once thriving city. He had been part of the defense force that had held the line for months. His uniform was torn and dirty, his face hardened from the constant struggle. But it wasn't the war that wore him down, it was the constant loss. He had lost friends, family, and now he feared his home. He was on a mission to scout out an area that had recently fallen into enemy hands. As he walked through the empty streets, his mind wandered back to the memories of better times. The laughter of children playing in the streets, the hum of market vendors selling fresh produce, the smiles of people who didn't have to worry about war. A sudden noise snapped him out of his thoughts. Adam froze, instinctively reaching for his weapon. He crouched low behind a pile of debris, his eyes scanning the area. From the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A figure stepped out from behind a ruined building. It was a woman, tall and slender, with blue skin that shimmered slightly in the pale morning light. Her long white hair was tangled and dirty, and her clothes were torn, showing signs of a long and difficult journey. She appeared lost and confused, her eyes wide with fear. Adam's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't seen many of her kind lately. She was an alien, but unlike the ones who had invaded their planet. This woman looked different, almost human, yet distinctly not. The woman's gaze shifted, and she froze when she saw Adam. For a moment, neither of them moved. Adam could see the fear in her eyes, but there was something else, too, a deep sadness. As though she had lost something precious, Adam didn't lower his weapon, but he didn't raise it either. He knew that it was a delicate situation. The last thing he needed was to make an enemy of someone who might be an ally. He stepped forward slowly, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice gruff but soft. The woman's eyes darted around, clearly searching for an escape route. But Adam didn't take his eyes off. He had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, they told him she wasn't a threat. She was lost, just like him. She took a step back, her body tense. I'm looking for my child," she said, her voice trembling with fear. Adam's heart softened. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Your child, where is he?" The woman's eyes filled with tears. She shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know. I lost him." In the chaos, Adam took a step closer. "I'll help you find him, but you need to trust me." For a moment the woman said nothing. She studied Adam's face, as though trying to decide if she could trust him. After what felt like an eternity, she nodded slowly. "I trust you," she said quietly. Adam nodded, feeling a sense of responsibility settle over him. No one should be alone in this world, especially not in times like these. He had seen enough of his own people suffer. He wasn't going to let this woman go through it alone. "We need to move quickly," Adam said. "The enemy is closing in on this area." The woman nodded. "I know. I've seen their ships. They're not far." With a quick glance over his shoulder, Adam motioned for her to follow. They moved through the ruined city, the silence between them only broken by the distant sounds of battle as they walked. Adam couldn't help but wonder what this woman was doing here, alone in the middle of a war zone. She wasn't a soldier, that much was clear, but there was something about her, a quiet strength. It was in the way she held herself, in the determination in her eyes. Finally, they reached the edge of the city. Adam led her to a small, hidden, safe house that had been used by the human resistance for months. It was tucked away in the shadows, almost invisible to anyone who wasn't familiar with the area. Once inside, Adam offered the woman a seat. She hesitated for a moment before sitting down, her eyes never leaving him. "I'm Adam," he said. Trying to break the silence, she looked at him for a moment before answering. "Lyra," she said, her voice soft but steady. "Lyra," Adam repeated. "What's your story? What happened to your child?"
Iris' face darkened.
"My people. We've been fighting this war for so long. My child, my daughter, was taken during an attack. I've been searching for her ever since. But now I'm not sure where to go or who to trust. Adam sat across from her, his expression serious. I'll help you. You're not alone in this. We'll find your daughter. Lyra's eyes filled with gratitude, but there was also a hint of something else, something Adam couldn't quite place. She seemed to be hiding something, but he couldn't figure out what. I'm glad you're helping me, she said quietly. But there's something you should know. I'm not just a lost traveler. I'm the last of my kind. My people once ruled this planet, before everything was taken from us. Adam blinked, surprised. Ruler? What do you mean? Lyra's gaze turned distant, as though she were remembering something long lost. My people were once the rulers of this planet, but we were betrayed, and our land was taken from us. I've spent my entire life fighting to get it back, but now I'm not sure where to start. Adam's mind raced. The stakes had just gotten much higher. This wasn't just about a lost child anymore. This was about the fate of an entire civilization. He stood up and extended his hand to her. Then let's take the first step together. Lyra took his hand, her grip firm, her eyes locked on his with a mix of hope and determination. Together, they would find her child. And together, they would fight for the future of both their people. Adam and Lyra left the safety of the hidden safe house as the first light of day broke over the horizon. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and the faint sound of distant explosions. The city they had taken refuge in was a war zone, and every corner seemed to hold danger. But Adam wasn't concerned about that anymore. His focus was on helping Lyra find her child. Lyra had explained briefly during their short time in the safe house that her daughter Zara had been taken by the invaders during a brutal raid on her settlement. She had been separated from her people in the chaos of the attack, and Lyra had been searching for her ever since. Now, with Adam's promise to help, her eyes were filled with hope for the first time in a long while, as they made their way through the ruined streets. Adam noticed the weight of Lyra's silence. She wasn't speaking much, but her every movement seemed to be measured, deliberate. She was clearly used to being cautious, always on alert. Do you have any idea where they might have taken Zara? Adam asked, trying to break the silence. Lyra glanced at him, her eyes clouded with both worry and determination. I don't know, she admitted. I just know that she's somewhere within the city. Invaders often take the children to a hidden facility, but I've never been able to find it. Adam nodded, his mind working quickly. We'll search systematically, one area at a time. We'll start from here and head towards the outskirts. If she's been taken somewhere, it will be a place with heavy security. Lyra's gaze softened. As she looked at him, Thank you, Adam. I don't know how much longer I can keep going without losing hope. You've already done more for me than anyone else ever has. Adam gave a small nod, his expression serious. We're in this together. We'll find Zara. As they moved through the ruins, Adam couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. He had seen plenty of battles in his time, but this was different. It wasn't just about winning a war or saving a city, it was about saving a life, a child's life. And for some reason, that made the mission feel more important than anything he had ever done. The sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long shadows across the broken buildings. Lyra led the way, her eyes scanning the area, always on the lookout for danger. Adam kept a watchful eye on their surroundings, alert for any signs of movement. The further they walked, the more desolate the city became. Once vibrant neighborhoods were now ghostly remnants of what they used to be. The streets were empty, save for the occasional piece of debris or shattered glass. There was no sign of life, human or alien, which made Adam uneasy. He knew the invaders had a stronghold in the city, but the silence felt wrong. As they passed through an alleyway, Lyra stopped suddenly, her eyes fixed on something ahead. Adam followed her gaze, but he didn't see anything out of the ordinary. He was about to ask her what was wrong when she spoke. They're here, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Adam stiffened, immediately reaching for his weapon. Who? Lyra didn't answer at first. Instead, she moved closer to him, her footsteps silent against the rubble. The invaders.
They've been watching us.
Adam's pulse quickened. He scanned the area, his heart pounding in his chest. He couldn't see any sign of the enemy, but Lyra's instincts were sharp. He trusted her judgment. "We need to move," Adam said, his voice low. "Get down the next alley. We'll head towards the old market. It's abandoned, but it could provide some cover." Lyra nodded, but before they could take another step, a loud noise echoed through the alley. Adam's hand shot to his side, ready for action, but it was too late. A group of alien soldiers, armed and ready, stepped into view from the shadows. Adam's eyes narrowed. There were at least 5 of them, each wearing heavy armor and carrying weapons that were much more advanced than anything the humans had. They were the enemy, and they had found them. One of the soldiers, a tall creature with glowing red eyes, raised his weapon and aimed it directly at Lyra. Adam's heart skipped a beat, couldn't let her be taken. Without thinking, Adam charged forward, using the element of surprise to tackle the nearest soldier to the ground. The soldier let out a startled shout, but Adam quickly subdued him, knocking him unconscious with a sharp strike to the head. He didn't have time to celebrate his victory. There were still more enemies to deal with. Lyra, despite her initial fear, reacted quickly. She ducked behind a pile of rubble, drawing a weapon from her belt that Adam hadn't noticed before. It was a small, sleek device that looked like it could cause serious damage. She fired at one of the remaining soldiers, taking him down in a single shot. Adam fought alongside her, their teamwork flawless as they took out the remaining soldiers one by one. The battle was brief but intense, and by the end of it, the alley was silent once more. The invaders had been dealt with, at least for now. Breathing heavily, Adam turned to Lyra, who was still crouched behind the rubble. She was staring at the fallen soldiers, her eyes filled with a mix of sadness and determination. "I didn't want it to be like this," she said quietly, her voice shaky. "I never wanted to fight. I just wanted to find Zara." Adam approached her, his expression softening. "I know, but sometimes we don't have a choice." Lyra nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I know. Let's keep going." "Can't. Stop now." Adam offered her a hand and she took it, standing up with a quiet strength. Together, they left the alley and continued their search, the weight of the task ahead still heavy on their shoulders. But now, Adam knew they were one step closer to finding Zara, one step closer to the hope they had both been searching for. The sun was high in the sky by the time Adam and Lyra reached the outskirts of the ruined city. The long walk through the desolate streets had left them both exhausted, but they couldn't afford to stop. They were getting closer to finding Zara, Lyra's missing child. Every step felt heavier, but Adam could see the determination in Lyra's eyes. She hadn't given up, and neither would he. Lyra had told him little about her past during their journey, but Adam had been too focused on finding Zara to ask many questions. But now, as they made their way through the thick overgrowth of the outskirts, the silence between them grew. Adam decided to break it. "Lyra, tell me more about your people, about Zara. Why is she so important?" Lyra slowed her pace, her gaze fixed ahead. She seemed to be gathering her thoughts before answering. "My people once ruled this planet," she began, her voice steady but filled with a quiet sadness. "We were the ones who made this land flourish. My ancestors built great cities, created powerful technologies, and ruled with wisdom. But everything changed when the invaders came. They destroyed everything we had, took our land, and scattered my people." Adam stopped walking, his heart sinking at her words. "And Zara? She's the last of my bloodline," Lyra continued, her voice barely a whisper. "My people have been hunted to near extinction. Zara is the only one left. She carries the blood of our ancestors, the ones who once held the power to control the planet's lost technologies." Adam frowned. "Lost technologies?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, there are weapons hidden beneath the surface. Weapons that could change the tide of this war. But only someone from my bloodline can unlock them. That's why they took Zara. She's the key to it all." Adam's mind raced. Everything about this situation was bigger than he had imagined. He had thought they were just looking for a lost child. But this was about more than that. It was about the fate of the planet and the future of two people, two races. Caught in a war neither of them had chosen. "But why didn't you tell me this earlier?" Adam asked, his voice filled with confusion. "Why keep it a secret?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes dark and heavy with the weight of her past. "I didn't want to bring you into this. I didn't want you to think I was asking for more than you could give, but I realize now I can't do this alone. I need you, Adam. I need someone who can help me fight. Someone who understands what's at stake." Adam nodded, the pieces of the puzzle slowly falling into place. He had known there was something important about Zara, something more than just a lost child. But hearing the truth from Lyra made it all feel more urgent. This wasn't just a mission to reunite a mother with her child. It was about reclaiming lost power, a chance to turn the tide of war. "We'll find her," Adam said firmly, his resolve strengthening. "We'll get those weapons back. Your people deserve that much." Lyra's eyes softened, but there was still a hint of sadness in her gaze. "I don't know what will happen once we find Zara. I don't know if she's even still alive, but I have to believe she is. I have." 2. Adam placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice gentle. "We'll find her, I promise." They continued their journey through the thick forest, the dense trees making it difficult to see much beyond a few feet ahead. The silence of the place felt oppressive, the only sound being the crunch of leaves underfoot and the occasional distant rumble of battle from the city behind them. As they walked, Adam couldn't help but wonder how many others had suffered like Lyra and her people. How many families had been torn apart by this war? It seemed like there was never an end to it, never a time when they could simply rest, live, and be free. Soon, they reached a clearing. The tall trees parted to reveal an ancient stone building, overgrown with vines and moss. It looked like it had been abandoned for centuries, but something about it felt significant. "This is it," Lyra whispered, her voice filled with awe. "This is where they took her." Adam's heart skipped a beat. This was the place, the hidden facility. Where Zara had been taken, he could feel the tension in the air, thick and heavy, as if the building itself was holding its breath. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "I've been here before," she said, her voice low, "but I couldn't get." "Inside, the entrance is hidden. I didn't want anyone to find it." Adam's eyes narrowed as he studied the building. He didn't see any obvious way in, but he trusted Lyra's instincts. There had to be a way, and they were going to find it. He turned to her. "What do we do now?" Lyra paused, her gaze focused on the building in front of her. "We wait. I need to sense the energy of the place, feel where the entrance is hidden." Looked at her in confusion. "Sense the energy?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. It's something I can do. Something my people were once able to do. We could connect with the land, feel its pulse, and know where things were hidden. Long it will take, but I need to do this." Adam stood beside her, his attention fixed on the building. As the minutes passed, he could see that Lyra was deep in concentration, her eyes closed and her breathing slow. He didn't speak, knowing this was something important for her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lyra opened her eyes. She nodded. "I've found it." Adam's heart raced. "Where?" She stepped forward, her hand reaching out to a seemingly empty section of the wall. Slowly, a hidden door began to materialize, shifting in the stone as if the building itself was waking up. Lyra turned to Adam with a serious expression. "Let's go," she said. "This is the only chance we have." Together, they stepped through the hidden entrance, ready to face whatever waited inside. The entrance to the hidden facility was narrow, barely wide enough for both Adam and Lyra to move through side by side. As they stepped deeper into the darkness, the air grew cold and heavy. Adam's flashlight flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. The silence around them was almost suffocating, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Lyra, however, seemed unaffected. She moved through the darkness with ease, her every step deliberate, as if she had walked these halls before. Adam stayed close behind her, his senses alert. His hand was never far from his weapon, knowing that danger could be waiting at any turn. This place is old, Adam murmured, his voice low. How long have you known about it? Lyra glanced over her shoulder, her expression unreadable. I've been here before, but only once. I don't know everything about it. It's been sealed off for years, hidden from anyone who might try to reclaim it. The invaders thought they were safe here. Adam's eyes narrowed as he looked around. And now you're going to take it back? Lyra nodded, her eyes hardening with determination. Yes, but it won't be easy. They walked further into the facility, the walls growing colder as they descended into what felt like the heart of the building. The air was thick with dust, and the faint hum of machinery echoed in the distance, suggesting that something was still running deep inside. Lyra stopped in front of a large metal door that looked newer than the rest of the structure. She studied it for a moment, her fingers brushing lightly over the surface. This is it, she said quietly. Behind this door is where they've kept the children. It's where they kept Zara. Adam could feel the tension building in the air. He had no idea what was behind that door, but he knew it was important. They had to find Zara. They had to get her out of here. Lyra placed her hand on a small panel beside the door, and after a few moments the door clicked open with a soft hiss. Adam stepped forward, his weapon raised, ready for anything. But when the door opened, what they found inside wasn't what he had expected. The room was empty, was large, filled with rows of beds, some of them still covered in sheets. But there were no children, no signs of life. Just the quiet hum of old machines that had long since stopped serving their purpose. Adam looked at Lyra, confusion written all over his face. What is this place? Where is Zara? Lyra's face went pale as she stepped into the room. She looked around, her eyes wide, scanning every corner. This isn't right. This room. It was supposed to be filled with children. Should we have been guards? Security? Maybe they moved them, Adam suggested, trying to remain calm. They could have taken them somewhere else. Lyra shook her head. No, they wouldn't have just moved them. They would have been careful. They would have. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw something in the far corner of the room. There, hidden behind a large metal crate, was a small, cylindrical device, blinking with a faint green light. It was a tracker. Zara, Lyra whispered, her voice shaking. She's still here. Adam's heart raced. Where? Lyra walked quickly toward the tracker, kneeling beside it. This is how they were keeping track of the children, she said, her fingers flying over the device. It was supposed to be hidden, but it's still active. If I can get the signal, I can find out where they've taken her. Adam watched her work, feeling the weight of every second ticking by. He didn't know how much time they had, but he couldn't afford to wait much longer. The invaders would be back soon, and they needed to leave before it was too late. Finally, Lyra looked up from the device, her expression grim. I've got a location, she said. It's not far from here, but we'll need to move fast. Adam nodded. Lead the way. They left the room, Lyra taking the lead as she followed the signal on the tracker. The facility seemed even more abandoned now, the halls eerily quiet as they moved through them. The only sound was the distant hum of machinery, but Adam had a feeling that was about to change. The further they went, the more tense Adam became. The tracker's signal was getting stronger, and they were closing in on Zara's location. But the deeper they went, the more the air seemed to thicken. Adam could sense the presence of someone close by. The invaders were still here, and they were preparing for something. I don't like this, Adam muttered, his hand tightening around his weapon. Lyra didn't respond. She was too focused on the tracker, her eyes scanning the dark hallway ahead of them. As they turned a corner, they suddenly came face to face with a group of invaders. There were 6 of them, standing in the middle of the hallway, blocking their path. Each soldier was armed with high-tech weapons, their helmets gleaming in the dim light. Stop right there, one of them ordered, raising a weapon. You're not going anywhere. Adam didn't hesitate. He raised his own weapon and fired, taking down the nearest soldier before they could react. The others scrambled to return fire, but Adam and Lyra were already moving. Lyra fired her weapon with precision, taking down 2 more soldiers with quick, clean shots. Adam moved fast, using the chaos to his advantage. He was quicker, more agile, and he had the advantage of surprise. In seconds, the remaining invaders were either on the ground or retreating. Their weapons dropped. "We can't keep doing this," Adam said, panting as he turned to Lyra. "They'll keep coming. We need to get to Zara before it's too late." Lyra nodded, her face pale but determined. "You're right. Let's go." They continued down the hall, faster now, the signal leading them closer to their goal. The walls seemed to close in as they neared the end of the corridor. Adam's heart was pounding in his chest, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. He didn't know what they would find, but he knew they couldn't stop now. They reached a large door at the end of the hallway, the signal growing stronger. Lyra stepped forward, her hand on the door's control panel. The door slid open with a loud hiss, and inside they found Zara. She was lying on a bed, hooked up to a series of machines, but she was alive. She was waiting for them. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from the soft glow of machines surrounding Zara. She lay there on a bed, connected to various tubes and wires that beeped and hummed with a steady rhythm. Her small body was motionless, her pale skin stark against the sterile white sheets. Adam's heart clenched at the sight. The girl was alive, but barely. Lyra stepped forward, her face filled with both hope and fear. She had finally found her daughter after months of searching, but the situation wasn't what she had imagined. Zara was hooked up to medical machines, her tiny chest rising and falling with each shallow breath. Adam glanced at Lyra, his voice low. "What do we do now?" Lyra's hands trembled as she reached out, her fingers brushing against the side of Zara's face. "I don't know. They've been using her for experiments. I can feel it. Her body. It's weak, but she's alive. That's all that matters." Adam moved closer, scanning the room for any signs of danger. The walls were lined with monitors and medical equipment, but there was no sign of guards or invaders. It seemed oddly quiet. It didn't feel right. The invaders had to be nearby. "We need to get her out of here," Adam said urgently, his eyes never leaving the door. "Before they come back." Lyra nodded, but there was a sadness in her eyes. She wanted to take her daughter in her arms and run, but she knew it wouldn't be that easy. The invaders had created this place to hold Zara, and they wouldn't let her go without a fight. Lyra crouched beside Zara's bed, gently lifting the girl's hand. "Zara," she whispered softly, "can you hear me?" Zara's eyes fluttered open slowly, her gaze unfocused at first. Then her eyes locked onto Lyra's face. There was a flicker of recognition, followed by a weak smile. "Mom," Zara whispered, her voice hoarse and weak. Lyra's heart swelled with relief. She reached down and softly stroked Zara's hair. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me. I've come to take you home." Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes, but she held them back, not wanting to show weakness in front of her daughter. She had to be strong for Zara. They had come so far, and now they were so close to escaping. "We need to move quickly," Adam reminded them. "The invaders could be here at any moment." Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. She turned back to Zara, gently lifting her into her arms. "I'm going to carry you, sweetheart. You'll be all right. Just stay close to me." Zara clung weakly to her mother, her body trembling, but she didn't speak. She seemed too tired to say anything more. Adam, ever the soldier, kept his eyes on the door as he moved toward them. "Let's go," Adam said, his voice firm. The group moved quickly through the room. But as soon as they reached the door, a loud noise echoed through the hallway. Footsteps, the sound of soldiers. Lyra froze, her heart racing. "They're coming," she said, her voice panicked. "We have to hurry." Adam didn't hesitate. He shoved open the door and they rushed down the hallway, moving as quietly as possible. Adam kept a few steps ahead, his weapon drawn and ready, while Lyra followed closely behind, her arms cradling Zara carefully. As they rounded a corner, they were met by a small group of invader soldiers. The moment they saw the three of them, weapons raised, Adam reacted without thinking. He'd fired first, his shot taking down one of the soldiers before he had the chance to fire back. Lyra ducked, shielding Zara with her body as Adam moved to the side to take cover. "Go," Adam shouted. "Get to the exit. I'll hold them off." Lyra hesitated, fear flickering in her eyes. But she knew Adam was right. They didn't have much time. She turned and began running, her legs carrying her faster than she thought possible. The exit was still a few corridors away, and the sounds of battle were growing louder behind them. Adam covered them as best as he could, firing when necessary and moving to new positions. He didn't want to risk them getting cornered, and he knew the invaders wouldn't hesitate to kill them all if given the chance. "Stay close to me," Lyra whispered, trying to comfort her daughter, even as the chaos around them intensified. "We're almost there." "Ah." Zara nodded weakly, her grip on her mother tightening. She was too weak to speak, but the terror in her eyes told Lyra everything. Zara was scared. She wasn't used to being in danger like this, and it broke Lyra's heart. But she had to be strong. She had to protect her daughter as they reached a set of heavy doors. Adam quickly glanced over his shoulder, seeing more invader soldiers closing in on them. He ran ahead and pressed the button to open the doors, but it was too slow. The invaders were almost upon them. With a quick glance at Lyra, Adam made a decision. He turned and fired one last time, taking down 2 soldiers who had nearly caught up with them. But as he did, another soldier appeared from behind a corner, firing his weapon. The shot grazed Adam's arm, and he stumbled back, wincing in pain. "Adam," Lyra cried out, turning to see him fall. "I'm fine," Adam gritted. Through his teeth, his eyes sharp with determination. "Go. I'll be right behind you." Lyra hesitated, but the doors were finally open. She had no choice. She turned and ran, pushing herself to her limits. The open sky outside was a welcome sight, and for the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to breathe. "Keep running," Adam shouted, struggling to get back on his feet. He was bleeding, but he wasn't going to let that stop him. Lyra reached the open field outside, her heart racing. She didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Zara was safe now, and nothing was going to tear them apart again. Adam soon caught up with them, moving slower, but still pushing himself forward. Together, the 3 of them disappeared into the shadows, ready to leave the facility behind and make their way to safety.
Art.
The battle wasn't over, but they had won a small victory that day, and for the first time in a long while, Lyra felt hope. The cool air outside the facility felt like a blessing as Lyra, Adam, and Zara made their way into the open field. The ground beneath them was uneven, and the tall grass brushed against their legs, but it was a freedom they hadn't felt in so long. Lyra held Zara tightly in her arms, her heart still racing from the chaos inside. Adam kept a few steps ahead, his eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. They had escaped the facility, but they weren't safe yet. The invaders would be searching for them. They had to move quickly, stay hidden, and make their way to the resistance base. "We need to find shelter," Adam said, his voice low but urgent. "The enemy will be looking for us. We have to get off the open ground." Lyra nodded, her face pale but determined. She couldn't afford to let fear control her now. Her daughter was alive. That was all that mattered. She had to protect Zara at all costs. "Follow me," Adam said, leading them toward a line of trees. At the edge of the field, the trees offered some cover, and it was their best chance of staying hidden. As they moved through the tall grass and under the thick canopy of trees, the sounds of the world outside grew faint. The distant hum of invader. Ships could still be heard, but the further they went, the quieter it became. It felt like they were slipping into another world, one where the fight was behind them. Not ahead. Adam led them to a small cave hidden among the rocks, just far enough from the facility to make them feel safe. It wasn't much, but it would do for the time being. As they entered the cave, Lyra lowered Zara gently to the ground, her face filled with exhaustion. "We need to rest," she said, her voice tired but steady. "We've made it this far. We can't stop now, but we have to gather our strength." Adam nodded, taking a seat beside them. He checked his arm where the bullet had grazed him earlier, but the wound wasn't too deep. It stung, but it wasn't life-threatening. His focus was still on the bigger picture, the safety of Lyra and Zara. "You did well back there," Adam said, his voice soft. "You got Zara out. That's what matters." Lyra glanced at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there." Adam gave her a reassuring smile. We're in this together. You're not alone. Yes. Zara, who had been silent since they escaped, finally spoke up, her voice barely above. A whisper, Mom, she said, her eyes searching Lyra's face. Lyra turned to her daughter, her heart aching at the sight of her pale, weak form. Zara had been through so much, but she was alive, and that was all that mattered. I'm here, sweetheart, Lyra said gently, brushing a lock of hair from Zara's face. You're safe now. We're free. Zara smiled weakly, her eyes closing. As she drifted off to sleep, Lyra watched her for a moment, feeling a mixture of relief and sadness. Her daughter had been through so much, and there was no way to undo the pain they had both suffered. But they could start over now. They had a chance to rebuild, to fight for what was rightfully theirs. Adam sat back against the stone wall of the cave, his thoughts drifting. The mission had been a success, but the war was far from over. The invaders were still out there, and they would stop at nothing to take what they wanted. But Adam had a feeling that things were about to change. With Lyra and Zara on their side, they had a chance to fight back. We can't stay here forever, Adam said after a long pause. We need to get to the resistance base. There's still a fight ahead of us. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. I know. But we can't rush it. We need to give Zara time to rest and recover. I won't risk her health just to push forward. Adam understood. They had to be careful, make their moves wisely. But the resistance base was their only chance to regroup, to plan the next steps in the war. The invaders had taken so much from them, but Lyra's bloodline and the power it held could be the key to turning the tide. Zara was the last of that bloodline, the key to the weapons that had been hidden for centuries. And Lyra would do anything to ensure her daughter's safety and her people's freedom. You're right, Adam agreed. We'll take the time we need, but when we're ready, we'll move fast. Can't let them get the upper hand. Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with both determination and exhaustion. I've lost so much already. I won't lose my daughter again. We have to fight. The fire in her voice gave Adam a sense of purpose. She was right. They had to fight. For their future, for Zara, for everything that had been taken from them. As the night began to fall, Adam kept watch outside the cave, his eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. The quiet of the forest was eerie, but it was a welcome. Change from the chaos they had left behind, it felt like a moment of peace, but Adam knew it wouldn't last long. They had made it this far, but the war was still raging. Inside the cave, Lyra sat beside her daughter, her hand gently resting on Zara's. The small, steady rise and fall of Zara's chest was a reminder of how far they had come. They had won a small victory today, but the war was far from over. It was just beginning, and Lyra was ready to fight. She had her daughter back. She had a reason to keep going. And now, she had a team. Together, they would take back what was theirs.
Ow.
They would reclaim their land, their freedom, and their future. Invaders would learn that they had underestimated the power of a mother's love and the strength of the human spirit.